Hello, Sawadee Club, and welcome to Dell's Crypto Life blog, where I am going to be looking at cryptocurrencies and mining and news for the last week. Starting as of today, 21st of November, we'll look back over the last week and what's changed in the market and what's affecting my crypto. So first of all, there has been a large sell-off in this particular week. There was a big dip in Bitcoin price, and we need to look at what was the reason for that dip. And it didn't just affect Bitcoin. This is on CoinMarketCap, and all of the prices for all of the major cryptocurrencies have taken a large dip in the last little while, mainly because they are all linked back to Bitcoin. What really affected this was Bitcoin Cash. Now, Bitcoin Cash itself was a version of Bitcoin that went a different way. They didn't agree with certain changes that were being made in a Bitcoin, so a group took Bitcoin and changed it basically to fit what they thought was a better way forward for Bitcoin, and it became Bitcoin Cash. What's happened now is that within that Bitcoin Cash group, they've again had a disagreement as to the best way forward, and two people which are basically publicly leading those two versions of Bitcoin Cash had basically a temper tantrum between each other and acted like children, and said they would destroy the whole blockchain and everything like this, which they can't. But their attitudes and their way forward of this split has shown an immaturity in the environment, and I wouldn't say has caused this, but they are a factor in this dip, in that people see this attitude between people and they go, oh, I don't, this market is not mature, and I obviously want to not be involved in it because of two public figures. But it's only media attention and hype and narcissists. I mean, you get this in stock markets as well, to be honest. You get an Elon Musk, his tweets, etc., have affected the price of Tesla, as an example. So anyway, these people have had a large impact. I would say that it's not the only cause. The other side is, one of the other side is, people will just use this as an excuse to bring the price of Bitcoin down. And what they do is, they've got a lot of money. They sell a lot of Bitcoin to try to get people to FOMO sell. They will think, oh, it's crashing, I must sell. They induce fear, so people sell their coin, and then when it's low enough, they buy back in. So basically what they're doing is they're changing their high cost Bitcoin, waiting for it to go down, and then buying back in again once the price is lower. If you have enough money, you can affect the market like this. Again, it's a slight sign of the small size of the market and immaturity, but it's good in volatility, and that if you know how to trade it, you can make money. Another part is there's the technical analysis. The technical people are just saying it's a natural consequence of the state of the market, in that they tend to draw a lot of lines on charts, which most people don't understand. And basically, this is just a simplification of it. We had a long line which had been hit many times, and what happens is these points of resistance, and that's what these lines are. When the market hits a line, it either goes through the line or bounces and comes down and hits the lower line. And you can see it bouncing between these two lines, and it was getting smaller and smaller. Now, when it converges like this, there gets to a point where it must go one way or the other. At some point, it must go above the line or below the line. And the thoughts at the moment is, it tried to go back in October, it tried to go above the line, and failed. So this time when it hit the top line, it bounced and inevitably went down. So the technical analyst people would be saying it's an obvious, just technical reason why this has gone down. So it is a partially the way that markets go up and down. To go up, a market must first come down. That is generally the way that stock markets, etc., work. So you can say, oh, well, it's crashed, but that's the 1 day chart. We started on the 1 hour. So on the 1 hour chart, it doesn't look great, big crash. The 1 day chart, you can see, oh, well, it doesn't look good. It's still crashing down. But then you go back further to the 1 week chart, which is going over, and you can see, oh, this is still on quite good. It's going up. It's just going sideways, really. So always remember it's perspective. The further away you look at something, the more indication of the real state you can get on a stock or an investment, etc. So don't get fooled into looking at the small 5 minute, 1 minute, even 1 day. Remember to look back and see everything from a long distance. The other good chart that people have been using to explain this is the stages of a bubble, because despite what had been said previously, crypto was in a bit of a bubble. In the beginning of this year or the end of last year, it did go up. We saw this lots of media attention. If we follow this through, we saw lots of media attention, lots of enthusiasm, and lots of people got into Bitcoin because they saw it as a get-rich-quick system. They then started getting deluded to think it will never go down ever again. And I've got to admit, I was in that view of, oh yes, this is going higher, this is going higher. And I was not really looking at it without emotion to say, no, it's going to come down at some point. We had people then saying, oh, it's only when it started coming down in January. It's like, oh no, this is only a little dip. That was the way, it was a dip. It came down quite hard and then returned up. And then people were going, oh yeah, that's going to go back up again. It's going to go back up again. Then it started coming down more, and people started to fear that, oh, it's never ever going to go up again ever. And that's the fear side, where people start selling off and saying, oh, never going up, never going up. Then you get where I think we are near or in at this moment is the capitulation, where people just go, nope, that's it, given up. I don't, the public opinion is very much against Bitcoin. Then finally, which possibly is still yet to come, is the despair, where people go, no, it's dead. It's never going to go, sell everything, start again. And this despair field is where the smart money and the big money buys the Bitcoin, because they, at that point, know it's going to go back up again. So they're buying it at the low and they're waiting for it to go back up to or beyond the previous high point. And if you look at stock markets in history, you'll find this happens often. You'll get a sudden move up, it will go down, and then people will buy in when it's gone down. Now, whether it's forced to go down, it's part of technical analysis, or just inevitability, it goes down. But it also inevitably goes back up again. So after the market news, let's have a look at some of the general news about what's happening in crypto and some of the better sides of cryptocurrency. So this is an example of a news that was sent out in the US by Ron Paul, who was a Republican senator, I think. Anyway, most of his followers are big money followers. That's why I like this one. The people that listen to him, and it's all about businessmen, large money, families, etc. And he sent out a tweet as a survey to ask people, if you were given $10,000, it'd be nice to be given $10,000, but anyway. But the catch was you could not touch that money for 10 years. Where would you put it to obviously gain the most, or what would you like to receive to gain the most return on your investment? And as you can see, the survey at the bottom on here, you had Federal Reserve notes, which I think is something like, it's not a government bond, it's some sort of government investment, gold, which obviously everyone knows about gold, Bitcoin, or treasury bonds, and treasury bonds are like a government bond. And 50% of the people said they would like it in Bitcoin. And next 37% were gold. The other bonds, etc., obviously people were not interested in. So why is this good? Well, this shows that a lot of people have heard of Bitcoin. 50% of the people that responded to Ron Paul's certainly have heard of it. I'm sure more than 50% have actually heard it. Some of them were not as enthusiastic as, say, gold, but 50% thought that Bitcoin was a good long-term investment for money. And these are people with a lot of money in general. So they are what we call the smart money. They are the people who have a lot of money, know how to make money, how to keep their money, how to invest properly. So that in general is very good. I mean, a very good option. There was a subtweet by someone who started going, would you put it into Bitcoin, XRP, Ripple, or Bitcoin Cash? But that was more focused at people who are heavily into the currency. In this particular case, they said put it into Ripple, XRP, which again, it's not my personal favorite. I'm still a more of a proponent of Bitcoin. But as you can see, Bitcoin Cash, yeah, no one really liked that. But yeah, BTC was still quite high up there as a long-term investment as to how to get your money back. Another piece of news, this is based in Switzerland, but it's also generally, I think, a worldwide good piece of news, is in Switzerland, the Swiss Stock Exchange has, that's called SIX, it has listed the first cryptocurrency ETP. Now, an ETP is an exchange traded product or exchange. Now, the difference between this to futures markets and derivatives, which we'll talk about later in another news article, is that when a person goes to the exchange and talks to their trader, he says to the trader, please buy me Bitcoin. And the trader will then actually go onto the market and purchase the Bitcoin from the market. So that the end user actually receives Bitcoin. And those Bitcoin details are held by that exchange, the private keys and all the details are held by the exchange and insured against loss and kept safe. So this allows all of the people who don't know how to use an exchange or don't want to do it on some phone app to actually purchase it in a legal, insured, and using traders who will find the best prices for their Bitcoin, and they will still have the Bitcoin. So it will be actually trading those funds. Now, the coins that have been initially mentioned have been Bitcoin, of course, XRP Ripple, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin. Of those, my favorites are Bitcoin as for long term. Litecoin, I think, is a good one. Bitcoin Cash, I'm not a fan of Bitcoin Cash. For this recent fork has just proven how volatile Bitcoin Cash is. Ethereum, I still think has value, although I'm just not quite sure of the development of it. Ripple is a good investment. But again, because it is centralized, it's not decentralized. I have my problems with the Ripple system because it is just basically a bank system. It's not actually getting away from the banks. You're just giving your money to the banks in a different way, in my view. But that's a criticism of that particular one. But generally, it means that people with however many billions of Swiss francs or whatever their currency is will have access to these markets and help when the price has come down, as it is now. They will be the type of people that will come in and suddenly put a lot of money into the market. On this same process, the New York Stock Exchange which is still the big one that everyone is waiting for, has confirmed that they will be launching their system at the end of January 24th. And again, this will be giving access to the trillions of US dollars to the market. So it's now not a will it happen. They've actually said that yes, it will be going through on or that's their target is January the 24th. So yeah, that will be quite interesting. And this is being set up by the Intercontinental Exchange, which is actually is part of 23 global exchanges. So although we're talking about the New York Stock Exchange, this will actually be available to stock exchanges around the world. So yes, there's more than trillions. There's, you know, the amount of potential money that's coming in, which is legal, actually on the market. It's not a derivative. It is actually on the market. It's going to be immense for early next year. News which is more focused in particular areas is, example, the UK regulator has saying considering banning derivatives. Now, this does not mean it's banning cryptocurrencies. And I think they're saying it's not necessarily a ban, it's going to be banned unless you get regulation, unless you conform to some market or government rules, etc. So what is a derivative? Now, a derivative is like a future in that you don't actually buy the particular product. So if you buy a Bitcoin derivative or a Bitcoin future, you don't actually buy Bitcoin. You buy a piece of paper that says, I will give you money or trade based upon the value of Bitcoin. But you never, the Bitcoin itself never ever gets bought. It's a derivative or a future contract. I've always been a little bit wary of these derivatives and future contracts, as I've always felt they're a little bit not quite right. They're a little bit off. But this is what they're looking at as putting regulation or banning, because basically people have been sold these derivatives or futures in an incorrect way. They're not just selling them on Bitcoin, they're selling them on other coins which have no value, they know are going down, and these people are just taking their money, quite simply. So they want to be able to stop retail investors being taken by the get-rich-quick type of derivative sellers. Some recent news in Thailand is the governor of the Bank of Thailand, who I'm not going to try and say his name because I am sure I will get it wrong. He has said, that the Thai currency is not going to be changed to a digital currency, or it would take 3 to 5 years to change from a paper cash type of currency to a digital currency. Now, this statement has come from a couple of areas. One, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, gave a statement to say that countries should start looking at this type of move to go to a digital currency from paper, coins, etc. Also, it's come from the government is looking at using cryptocurrencies and blockchain for its own tax, border transactions, etc. The good bit about this is it's not been said, oh, it will never happen. It's a matter of they've obviously looked at the possibility of moving to a digital currency, and they've said, yes, it's possible to do in 3 to 5 years. Now, reality is, I think it will be longer than that, but it's a show that potentially they are looking at it. Some mining-based news now, and one of the elements I saw recently, has happened with AMD and Nvidia, is that their last Q3 results in their sales has gone down drastically because miners are buying less GPUs. Now, why is that good news or is that bad news? Well, it's good news. The mining or using GPUs was the get-rich-quick type of scheme, end of last year, beginning of this year, where everybody thought, oh, I just buy a computer graphics and I can make money. And they forced the price, because everyone was buying these cards without thought, without thinking, the price of the cards increased dramatically. And people like Nvidia and AMD really didn't care because they were making money. They were making money at these inflated prices, so they weren't going to change that or make any changes. Now that the price of Bitcoin's come down and all the other currencies, because if we follow the idea of the bubble diagram, we're going into this fear capitulation where there's a lot of miners are selling their equipment or stopping mining. They're certainly not buying new equipment because they fear it's all going to come to an end and it's the end of the world, etc. But for myself, I'm a long-term trader, a long-term miner, in that when I look at the mining equipment, I look at what's going to happen to this over the next 3 years, not 3 months or 3 weeks. And a lot of the miners that got involved thought that they were going to make all their money back in 3 months or 6 months. Whereas I look at getting a return in investment and profit over a 3-year period. So it's a longer term sale. So for me, and for people that are getting into long-term GPU mining now, the price of the cards has significantly dropped. You can either buy a lot of second-hand cards from miners who have given up, or basically just buy brand new cards, which is my suggestion because you get a warranty and you know it's not had any problems, etc. You've got the good cards which are good at mining are at a good deal at this moment because there's lots of people come out of the mining market. The other side to this mining reduction is there's what we call the network hash rate. So the network hash rate is effectively how many miners are on the network mining a particular coin. Now here I've chosen the last month Ethereum Classic as an example. Now it's not what I necessarily mined, but it is a good example of what has happened. So if we go back over time, I'm just going to see how far back they go. They only go back to August on here. You can see that the network hash rate increased until around September. It was steadily increasing. And then around September, in these last few months, whilst the people have thought that there's no more quick profit to be made in these coins, you can see the network hash rate has gone down. Now, Ethereum Classic has had some price decreases, but the network hash rate shows less miners that are mining these coins. The other side of this is what's called the difficulty chart. The difficulty of a coin, in some ways, does follow the hash rate. You'll see there was an increase. Again, we've got this increase going up until September, and then the decrease again. Now the difficulty defines how many coins you get each time when you do your mining. So as we have got more people going off the network, for the amount of mining I do, I actually get more coins in my wallet. So as more miners disappear, I actually get more coins. Are they worth more? No, on a day-to-day basis, they're not worth more. But if I hold those coins, as I intend to, for a year, 2 years, 3 years, the value of those coins is going to go up significantly. And that's where I'm going to make the profit in a long-term view. My short-term view on mining is that it's not good at this moment and the value of mining has gone down significantly. But my long-term view of mining is that the coins I am receiving at this moment and moving between different cryptocurrencies is good on a long term and will benefit and give a better rate of return later on. Yes, we're going through a slight little bit of a dip, but I'm not going to shut down systems just because it's in a dip. That'd be like selling everything just because it's down a little. If you know it's going to go up, the chances are you're going to miss the time it goes back up again and end up losing more than you gain by jumping around the market too quickly. For the miners by my clients, I am keeping an eye on the coins that we are mining and moving around to the most efficient coins possible to pull in the generally people get it changed into Litecoin and pulling that into their wallets. In some cases there is a negative, there is the cost of electric depending on your country. So at the moment, UK, it's a very big negative on most coins because of the sheer cost of electric. In Thailand, some coins have gone slightly negative, but I've still got a few which are positive, even with the cost of electric taken into account. Hopefully, though, all of this downward trend will reverse within the next month or so. And then we'll be laughing at this and saying, oh, that was just a little dip and we're now starting the golden times again. I have a feeling it's got further to go down, but then it will go up higher. Once it's come down significantly, it will go up higher. And my own strategy at the moment is I'm still buying crypto as well, but little bits. I'm not buying a lot, I just buy a little bit. It's called dollar cost averaging. You buy a little bit every week, and your average cost of what you've got averages out to be a better cost in the long run. It works out, it just makes it feel less problematic when you see all of these big minus figures. That's it for now. Any comments, please leave them down below. Please give a thumbs up to the video, and I will try to do another video next week if I'm not flying around or busy traveling again. But until later, have a good day and have fun.